This is Dave Wiegand. He's one of the top Scrabble grandmasters in the world with wins at a slew of national and regional events. He's already been featured on this channel twice, somehow winning a game in which his opponent scored 591 points, as well as converting a draw of UUVV into a win at the Crescent City Cup. Beating Dave Wiegand is tough, but blowing him out in a game is next to impossible. According to crosstables.com, Dave's played over 4,700 tournament games. He's been beaten by 200 points or more just 37 times. So imagine that you're paired up with Dave in the final game of a prestigious tournament. Your goal is not only to win, it's to beat him by 198 points or more to pass him in the standings. You should probably just head home, right? Well, in 2007, this was the situation fellow top expert Jerry Lerman faced at the Oregon Tile Tournament. An elite player himself for over 40 years, Jerry had battled through a stacked field to face Dave in the 4-game finals. In Game 1, Dave bingoed twice and landed a big Z play to Jerry's lone bingo and big Q play en route to an 101-point win. Jerry struck back in Game 2, holding on to a small lead throughout the game to win by 23. But Dave started fast in Game 3, bingoing 3 straight times, and while Dave didn't challenge Jerry's phony bingo of lead pipe, he did correctly challenge when Jerry attempted to S-hook it with fascial, padding his lead to an eventual 119-point margin. Because of Dave's 2 big wins to Jerry's 1 narrow win, Jerry had to win by 198 points or more in the 4th and final game of the match. Jerry goes first, and with Matter for 22 available, he opts for Tram for 12, keeping a stronger leave, knowing he'll need to bingo early and often to pull off his impossible task. Dave has good bingo tiles too, with duplicated N's and the V the only blemishes. Although playing short makes sense here, Dave wants to use up more tiles to end the game sooner, so he plays Raving for 13 instead. Jerry makes a clever choice here. With under 8 available for 72 points, he plays under Eat in the same spot. Normally, when taking a lead, you'd want to avoid putting the useful E in the double-double lane, since it ends a lot of 8-letter words. You'd also want to avoid making an extra S-hook. But Jerry knows that for practical purposes, he's still down huge, and he needs to keep things volatile to continue his comeback. Dave plays Kerf for 15 to obstruct that E, and while he blocks Jerry's tiredest, the A of under Eat still gives him a second straight bingo of striated. Dave plays Crib for a solid score, keeping the strong INS leave and hoping to win the race to the next bingo. Instead, Jerry bingos a 3rd straight time with Enlarged for 80, putting him tantalizingly close to the 198-point margin. In the nick of time, Dave answers back with Amnesia for 71, using the first blank to set Jerry back. Undeterred, Jerry responds with a gorgeous overlap of Aloof for 50, and Dave's post-bingo draw is horrendous, so he opts to exchange. Suddenly back in range again, Jerry hits the triple with Hip for 31, padding his lead to 179 points. Dave draws much better, picking up a critical S, and rather than something like Awe for 29, setting up a potentially dangerous bingo lane, he plays Claude, again using up more tiles and cutting off the upper left of the board. Jerry picks up the second blank and dumps his J for a solid score, hoping to bingo soon, while Dave draws the OOUV combination to his promising leave, and he finds his top move of Journo to continue burning through tiles while also scoring decently. Jerry draws the Z, and although he can't yet bingo, he makes an excellent move of A in the lower corner. The straightforward Size was also available for him here. By using up the triple, he prevents Dave from scoring well in that spot, while keeping the Z for plays like Azo for 45 if he draws an A, which would also further reopen the top left. Dave answers with Tivy hooking F for 36, a great way to shed his high point tiles on the triple. But Jerry gets a huge draw of SY, allowing him to burn the blank and play Zesty for 82. Had Jerry played under 8 instead of under Eat earlier, this wouldn't have been possible. All of a sudden, he's up by 234 points, and he simply needs to hold on to that lead. Dave responds with O-Ball, knowing that with one more solid draw, he'll bingo again, hooking trams and trim Jerry's lead by enough to hold on. Jerry picks the Q, and there's only one spot to use it. Instead of quad, Jerry wisely plays quid, recognizing that there are multiple I's remaining in the pool, whereas his O is the last one, so he can't draw a duplicate. Dave fails to connect on a bingo, and seeing that the unseen tiles are heavily weighted in favor of consonants, he plays dip, holding on to 3 vowels. If Jerry is struggling with consonants, he may not be able to hit the triple, which is exactly what happens. Jerry is forced to play ohm for just 11 points. He knows that Dave can easily have something like waxed for 48, which would put his 198-point lead in jeopardy. Dave does have waxed, and Jerry blocks it, so with his game clock dwindling, Dave quickly plays X for 32. And heading into the endgame, Jerry is up by 203 points. The tournament is hanging in the balance. With optimal play from both sides, Jerry cannot win by the required 198 points here, thanks to Dave's more flexible tiles. Jerry knows that Dave's most obvious scoring play is Awe and Wit for 29 points. So Jerry elects to play Unknit for 12 points, leaving GLT on his rack. He's hoping to surprise Dave by blocking that W spot and threatening an outplay of Glut, which Dave will have to deal with. Dave's down to next to no time, but he's able to calculate that his top scoring move of Oz and Scurf will lead to an 199-point loss after Glut. So he has to try to block Jerry's outplay, and he comes up with a sequence that gets the job done. He plays Wine for 14, blocking Glut and forcing Jerry to play Jowl, also for 14. Dave then ends the game with Say for 16, collecting 6 points from Jerry's rack to cut his losing margin to 193 points. That should have been enough for Dave, but because Jerry forced him into a more complex endgame, Dave couldn't calculate his sequence and make his moves before going over on his clock by mere seconds, giving him a 10-point score penalty and increasing Jerry's winning margin from 193 to 203. Enough for Jerry to push past the 198-point barrier and win the tournament in dramatic fashion, leading to a swing of $2,300 in prizes. Jerry drew extremely well in this game. He also helped himself hugely with clever choices designed to put maximum pressure on Dave. No stranger to Scrabble history, Jerry came one play away from winning the North American Championship later that year, and he also holds the record for most bingos in a single game in North American play with 8 against Grandmaster Kenji Matsumoto. But given the circumstances, Jerry's final round win at the 2007 Oregon Tile is one of the craziest comebacks I can recall in Scrabble.